Hello guys, welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. I am back with another episode. There is a message that I want to share with you guys. The message reads like this. How are you, brother? Please hide my identity. Brother Nashi, my story is like this. My mother's auntie was my father's sister. The story is about my father's sister. This story happened 21 years ago because my son, my firstborn, is now 20 years old. So my auntie got married to her husband, and her husband was so wealthy. His family also has money. By then, we as a family, we were living in the villages, and not just an ordinary village, but it was a remote village. When my auntie got married to this man, everyone in our village was surprised because my auntie was just a common village girl. Everyone never understood how our auntie could have managed to get married to such a wealthy husband. When that auntie of ours got married, there were cars that came all the way from Harare. And when those cars came all the way from Harare, everyone in our village was surprised because we were not used to seeing cars each and every day. That was the first time that cars ever entered onto our yard. So this auntie was the last born in our father's house. The auntie's husband actually came with a truck that was loaded with a lot of cattle for the bride price. Auntie got married very well and she went to stay with her husband afterwards. So during the bride price ceremony, it is in our culture that there are some monies that are given out to the relatives of the bride. My mother was given a share, but what shocked me was that when my mother was given a share, she took a 20 rand note, then she took that 20 rand note, then she covered it with a red cloth. By that time, I was all grown up because my auntie and I, we were just 3 years apart in age. So one day, after my auntie's traditional wedding, I was just cleaning in my mother's bedroom. That is when I came across the money that was tied inside a red cloth. Brother Nashi, next to the money, there was a piece of paper which was written by my mother. That paper was written my auntie's name, like for example, Sibongile, you are a prostitute, and you are that kind of a prostitute that can't keep a man. You are a prostitute that will never be able to enjoy marriage. So I just returned the cloth where I had found it because it was in my mother's wardrobe. Brother Nashi, my mother then started going with me to traditional healers to do rituals. You know, those rituals that are done on a young woman to attract men. My mother then placed some herbs inside my private parts during these rituals. I was told that those herbs that were being pushed into my private parts, the traditional healer said that those herbs were going to save a purpose of making the men who will be having sexual intercourse with me enjoy the moment. And whenever he have sexual intercourse with me, you will never want to let me go. I did these things for about 2 months. So at that time, my aunt's husband then called saying that she was sick and they needed someone to look after my auntie. My auntie wanted my younger sister to go to the city so that she can take care of her, but my mother refused and told me that I had to drop out of school so that I can go to the city and take care of our auntie. I got onto the bus, then I traveled all the way to Harare. But Brother Nashi, the moment that I got onto the bus, I felt like I was carrying something that was heavy on my back. It was like I was carrying a child on my back or something that was heavy. Then, the day that I arrived at my auntie's house, the moment that I stepped into my auntie's house, that heaviness, that weight that was on my back lifted off. You could clearly see that these people loved each other so much, even though my auntie was sick, but there was love between them. When my mother called to see if I had arrived well, that is when everything started. My auntie and her husband, they couldn't get along anymore. They were just fighting each and every day. This whole thing started when I received a phone call that was from my mother. Each and every night, I heard my auntie and her husband fighting and cursing each other in their bedroom. So, as time went on, whilst I was doing the housework, I saw that my auntie's husband was now staring at me. Then he started telling me that my auntie was now cheating, but he didn't want to dump my auntie because at that time my auntie was pregnant already. But my auntie's husband told me that she was planning to dump my auntie after she had given birth. He was going to travel with her back to the village and he was just going to dump her in the village. Now my auntie's husband wanted me to fill in my auntie's shoes. He wanted me to become his new wife, but I refused. But one day he begged me to sleep with him. When he came to my room and as he was begging me to sleep with him, I refused and he started to cry and he said to me he hasn't slept with his wife for about 2 months or so. Then we started having sexual intercourse from there. I then told my mother the very next morning, but the reason why I had told my mother, I wanted my mother to go and report to the police station because my auntie's husband had actually forced himself on me and he was strong. Even though I had tried to push him off me, I failed because I was just a little girl. When I called my mother, when I told her everything that had happened the night before, he said, I am not going to go to the police station. I want you to stay in that house. From now on, you have to know that you are his wife. You are his second wife. But just make sure that you don't get pregnant. Then my mom told me what I had to do. So I went to the clinic. Then I collected some family planning pills. That is when I started drinking those family planning pills. Then my auntie went back home because it is in our culture when a woman is carrying a first child, she has to be returned back to her people so that she can give birth whilst she is with her relatives. When my auntie went back home to give birth, all of a sudden she died. But she died whilst she was giving birth to a baby girl. It was a mysterious death. When the baby turned 1 month, already I was pregnant because me and my auntie's husband, we kept on having sexual intercourse. I was already pregnant. When I told him that I was pregnant, he went to pay the bride price and everything. My auntie's child was brought up by me. Even up to this day, she doesn't know that I am not her mother. Brother Nashi, that is how I got into this marriage. I just thought that I should confess. Dear listeners, right there was a message that I received a while ago. Then I asked one of our admins to give us a translation. So that was the translation of the confession that I received, hoping that you were able to understand this confession. Please let us talk about this issue in the comment section. I'll be back with another episode.